Good evening and welcome to Athens City Council. It is Monday, December 1st, 2025 at 7:02 p.m. And we have a regular session tonight, but also a special session, one committee meeting, which we will start with the Planning and Development Committee. I'm going to ask all council members to stay at the dais as we have this one committee meeting. And this committee is chaired by Council Member Swank, joined by Member Thomas, Member Spielness, who is not with us this evening, and Member Wood. Member Swank, your committee.
All righty. We just have two items before the Planning and Development Committee tonight. The first is Title 23, zoning to allow temporary shelters as a conditionally permitted use in R3 and B3 zones. I will read the recommendation from the Planning Commission of the City of Athens. Temporary housing shelters, and I'm going to read this in the context of both the R3 and the B3. No need to read the same thing twice. Temporary housing shelters, housing structures of a temporary nature that are not affixed to the property and that do not contain kitchen or bathroom facilities. One sink and one toilet must be available for use within 200 feet for every 3 temporary housing shelter units. Approval by the Service Safety Director must first be obtained before approval of this use by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Temporary housing shelter use must be reapproved every year by the Service Safety Director. And that recommendation is for both R3 residential zone multifamily and B3 general business zones. With that, I will pass it over to the administration.
Thank you, Councilmember Swank. On this particular piece of legislation, I still have not questions, but just concerns of having a citywide proposal such as this. I do appreciate the changes, Councilmember Swank, in Section 1C8 as well as 2C2, which makes things clear. This came up before, and it was, true access to a restroom facility on the property itself, or, not only a toilet, but a sink. But anyway, I just want to go on the record as still having questions about this particular piece of legislation, but I do appreciate the amendments that have been placed into both those sections, so thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public. If you would, please state your name and address, and President Crowell will push the button for 3 minutes.
It'll be brief. Jack Stauffer, Elmwood. If we are truly trying to help the homeless, then they need real shelter inside a building of some type. They are apparently living outside in tents or whatever, and moving them to tents in a different location doesn't really seem to help anything. The city removes them from city property, and now you are considering move them to a more visible site on private property where they will have a larger and more negative impact on our permanent tax-paying citizens and overall charm of our community. I would like you to take a look at your zoning map and realize all the neighborhoods, RE, R1, that border all of the R3 and B3 zones, and also what negative impact this will have on those families' comfort level as well as their safety concerns. Not to mention all of East State and how it will impact our citizens and visitors' comfort level and the negative impression that it projects on our town. Here are some facts and concerns from our police chief when we talked on November 17th. He said there had been a rash of car break-ins and 3 stolen cars that had the keys in them that he suspected homeless. Chapman's Jewelry, right up on Court Street, breaking and entering by a homeless person. When I questioned him about the warming shelter and or the overall amount of homeless folks in town in regards to the warming center last year, he said, 10 or 15 at the most. When I said, how many homeless people do you think there are in this town? He said, 30 or 40. He went on to say that B3 and R3 would be harder to allow and manage. And he also has concerns about the Sunset Motel. He said, not many are from our area, but they quickly get a local ID so they can get services. We used to have just a few, and we knew them by name. No one goes to jail in this town unless it's a felony, as per Judge Grace. Now back to my thoughts and reality. Many are running from life's relationships and responsibilities. They don't want a hand up, they want a hand out. Bumming on our streets, shoplifting in our stores, making the regular citizens feel uneasy. Whether you believe it's justified or not, it is a reality for many regular folks. Please drop this tonight and let the Sunset Project develop, and then focus on the needs of our Athens City and Athens County residents. Do not encourage more unfortunate souls to town. We can't solve Ohio or America's homeless problem. Remember the saying, charity starts at home. Please and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments from the community this evening? Okay, seeing none, this is a committee meeting, and the members of the committee present today are Member Wood and Member Thomas. So I will turn to both of them for comments as we move this along. Yes, Member Thomas.
Thank you. And I'm realizing when the mayor was speaking that I don't think I sent him my email. I emailed council and then passed out some updated or additional amendments to this that I had worked on, and I'm suggesting we add for discussion. That I think will clarify a few things, will tighten a few things, and address some of the public comments Ms. Thomas had a few weeks ago. Different Ms. Thomas. Mostly what I added, or I'm suggesting we add, is after the already amended, shelters must be under the supervision and care of a licensed local health and welfare agency. We would additionally add or churches and other incorporated faith-based organizations and state licensed public welfare organizations. At the end of that paragraph, also adding approved agency must have an MOU agreement in place with the service safety director defining operational terms governing the location. Additional amendments to that would be 8A, adding a maximum of 6 temporary housing shelters allowable per applicant location, a maximum of 5 locations permitted at one time within city limits, and that no fees may be collected in exchange for use of said temporary housing shelters. Those all address things that were brought up as to what would be a total number in the city, how would this look, and what, preventing any of the concerns that were listed, or as many as it can be addressed through code. And these are all maximums. I think the best reminder on this is that these are just would allow up to. It doesn't guarantee anyone would. I don't even know that we have 5 locations within the city that would qualify under any of these qualifications, and they all still would have to go through the Service Safety Director's office and then the Board of Zoning Appeals. That is just generally that, and that would be the same for the B3. I agree. We don't need to repeat it twice. Be happy to have some conversation or questions about that. Yeah, and I would note, I guess I will have another conversation with the police chief, since he seems to have a different conversation with Mr. Stauffer than he does with me, because that's a whole lot of different information added in.
Well, if you're accusing me of lying, I would not stand here and quote the police chief.
Mr. Stauffer, she's not accusing you of lying. Thank you.
That's what it sounded like. Excuse me.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Other member of the committee, Mr. Wood.
I think those are, great additions. I'm curious, and I think particularly, the no fees thing tamps down on the idea that people are going to turn this into some sort of your Airbnb situation. So great. How did you arrive at the 5 and 6 numbers? Just out of curiosity.
I was looking through some other places that have these. Eugene, Oregon, and Walla Walla, Washington have them. And looking at their numbers, they have much larger populations. Was just kind of guesstimating on what would make sense given our numbers, given the number of people that our current and experts in that area say are already in the area. That seemed like it would make sense. I think those are adjustable and definitely up for conversation. That was just a starting point for conversation.
Okay.
Hey, at this time, as a committee of 3, Solveig is ill this evening, could not join us. Yes, sir.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Could you repeat the numbers? Is that 6 total in the entire city?
6 beds.
6 beds.
Whereas like when we talked about the gathering place most recently, sorry, yeah,
thank
I
you.
thought I'd emailed that to everybody and I did not.
No, it went to the other Ms. Thomas.
There were 3 per 200. This would allow up to 3 per 200 with a maximum of 2 bathrooms, 6 beds. And that really, I don't think is very likely anywhere. Just looking around town, when you look at the map and what's available, it just seemed like a decent starting space.
So 5 locations permitted at one time within the city limits, so it's maximum of 5. Mm-hmm. And that's not counting the 3 that will likely go in at the gathering place.
I would include that in that number.
It is, so it's actually, you're talking 2 additional somewhere in the city.
4.
I'm
5
sorry.
locations, sorry. 6 beds per location. Oh, and maybe I didn't put, 6 shelters per location, 5 locations total.
Okay.
Yeah. We need a flow chart.
Councilmember Swank, can we make this any more difficult?
Well,
I
right now.
appreciate the amendment.
Yeah, right.
Well, we want clarity.
Well, right now, Mr. Mayor
not an amendment.
Mr. Mayor and members of the committee, what we are considering is the recommendation of the Planning Commission, which I read earlier. The things that Member Thomas has presented, if this moves forward this evening, would be handled as an amendment to this, and we would discuss those at that time, Mr. Mayor, and other members of council. Like the mayor and Mr. Stauffer, I have concerns of extending this citywide in R3 and B3 zones for a variety of reasons. And I've mentioned those in multiple meetings in the past, but because the gathering place came to the Planning Commission, with a specific request for specific location with specific plan, this is much different. This is kind of wide open. And as Mr. Smith, who is a resident of the Far East Side, put in a email to council, which was read either last time or the time before, rolling this out on a citywide basis through a zoning initiative, which this would be a change in, is perhaps not the right way to do it. Combine that with the fact that it would be nice, in my opinion, to see how the gathering place plays out. Ginger has mentioned that it is a pilot program, and also to see capacity requirements, capacity needs as the Sunset Motel goes online to evaluate whether or not this is something we really need to do at this point in time. This is a recommendation of the Planning Commission, and it is this committee's job to discuss that in detail and then decide whether or not to forward it to the entire council for consideration. So at this point in time, I have, like the mayor, some concerns about it and would prefer to see how those 2 entities, the gathering place and the Sunset Motel project, play out before we extend this to any other areas in the city. Fire away.
I have a process question for
Yes,
Clerk
sir.
Walker.
For the law director, go ahead.
Try to answer.
Sure, we're the law director. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's the right person. Sorry. If we were to consider said amendment, do we have to do that now? Does that
No.
come later?
First, it
Is that
has to
just-
move out of committee.
Okay.
And then it'll get a number. doesn't have a number yet.
Got
And
it.
once it does that, then this will be the first reading, and someone could make a motion to amend. And
That's
in order for the motion to amend, you have to have 6 of 7, 3/4 of the full membership.
Because it's a BZA thing?
Well, it
Planning
came from the
Commission.
Planning
Thank
Commission,
you.
and 230911 states any amendment or change which differs or departs from the recommendations submitted by the commission must be approved by not less than 3/4 of the full members of council. And there's 7 members, and 3/4 would be 6. So 6 of 7 would have to approve an amendment.
May I ask a related follow-up question?
Okay?
yeah, please.
Related to that 6 of 7 issue, or 6 of 7 number, does the same rule apply for us to not proceed with it?
That would just
Well,
be a
that's
majority.
interesting too, because 230911, council action says the city council shall consider recommendations and vote on the passage of the proposed classification. You can vote yes or no, of course, but again, the word is shall. Now, one thing that Member Swank and I have been discussing is it doesn't say a period of time that it has to be considered. And then our own local rule, 29, talks about any subject matter brought before city council shall first be referred to a proper committee chair or official. That committee chair or official shall make a report thereon to council. If the matter requires considerable time and study, for completion, such committee chair or official shall advise council of the progress of such study at least every other council session until the subject matter is completed by official action or council action. So it indicates here that some action has to be taken. Other action could be a motion to table. But it appears that it does have to come out of committee, and after that, there are several different things that can happen.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
I think those are the most relevant bits, yeah.
Okay.
For me.
Well, at least there has to be a vote to come out of committee. So,
Yes, Member Thomas?
I have a follow-up question then.
okay.
If it gets tabled, then it's done then at the end of the year? Or
Yes.
it can go through the year?
No.
Okay. And if we don't address it, it has to come out of committee. If we don't address it in committee or it doesn't come out of committee, it also dies at the end of the year?
Well, let's say that coming out of committee, let's say that there were 4 people here, and 2 people voted yes, 2 people voted no, then it wouldn't come out of committee. I mean, you took action, but it didn't come out of committee. It does say in here again, though, it shall consider such recommendation and vote on the passage of the proposed classification.
Would a tie?
But it's a procedural. No, it's okay. It's a procedural issue there.
Yeah. And a tie would not mean there needs to be more action because there's no decision if it's a tie?
Right, and I guess it could come up another time, but again, our rules say that the chair has to report on it every other regular session of council until it's ready to come out and till such matters completed by official action or council action. I suppose a vote to move it out of committee could be considered official action, so.
Yeah, Member Wood?
Sorry, I heard conflicting things. I heard has to come out, and then I heard has a vote, and we never voted on anything out of committee.
Well, that's true. It hasn't been the past practice to vote, but in a circumstance like this, I think it's been by consensus that people have, by consensus, decided to move it out of committee, and I don't recall any time in the past that there has been an issue about moving it out of committee. But obviously, since we have a rule about it, I mean, it's something that could possibly happen.
I'll just keep asking questions. So, I mean, I guess what doesn't make sense to me is why we would change process in this way at this point, because we've never mentioned that we've had an option. I mean, we're at the last month of term, of a 2-year term, and it's never come up that somebody could ask for a vote. So feels like a lot of big questions there.
I think that's due to the fact, at least in my 4 years on council, we've never had an issue where there was the range of opinion on whether or not something should go forward. In other words, the council, the committees had come to a consensus that, yes, this moves on. In fact, I've actually heard people say, I remember Reisner, for example, in finishing finance and personnel, and this will be on the agenda next time. Just a little history. We had planned to have this as a committee meeting on the 17th of November. I could not be in town. I thought it was important that all 4 members of council be here. Member Thomas was in agreement on that. We found out on the 24th because scheduling, she could not be here. I thought it would be inappropriate to have a committee of 3 at that time and take action. I think all voices are needed to be heard. Those were circumstances beyond our control in terms of our attendance. I was at a NOPEC meeting. I'm not sure about Member Thomas, and we don't, some vacation or whatever. You need to get away from that shop from time to time. And tonight we're victim of circumstances again. Member Spelness is ill. We couldn't count on that. It is my intention, now that we've heard from Member Thomas and Mr. Wood, to entertain a motion to move this out of committee this evening and to take the vote and see where it goes. So I would entertain such a motion this evening.
Sorry, I wanted to see if Lisa had anything to add to.
No, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay.
I'll move.
Motion's been made to move this out of committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of moving this out of committee, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. It passes 2-1. And Mr. President, when we get to the regular session of council, after you've established a quorum, I will be making a motion to amend the agenda to add this to the agenda at first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Smike. Procedural question for the law director. Similar to some of the comments that Mr. Wood has made about setting precedent in this December council meeting in preparation for the next city council president and all of council for the next term, will we continue? Is this now precedent that we will have motions and seconds and votes at every committee meeting?
I mean, in most situations, that's how it happens. It just hasn't been our past practice. It's been by consensus. I think that people can get the idea as far as bringing something forward. So just because we didn't do it in the past doesn't mean that we can't start doing it.
I understand that. I'm just trying to prepare the next council president, and he is very busy in preparing for the next term, but something else to consider is
It's a more
going through
formal
with the clerk
process.
of courts as well as the law director, probably looking at our rules of council and making sure that we all understand how this will be going forward. Thank you.
It's a more formal process. In the past, it's just been by consensus.
Well, and if I can say, I mean,
Yes, please go ahead,
to that
Member Wood.
point, I'm a little salty because I did ask about a vote on another issue earlier and was told we don't do that. So I'm a little perturbed at the times that I've asked that it was said that we weren't doing that. And so, I think we should have some sort of discussion of our rules, what we're actually going to have as rules, or when we're going to decide to, make new ones.
Point well taken, Mr. Wood. I encourage you to, and I assume you will, take on a committee chair next term and be more involved in the way these things move forward. Thank you.
Second item on the agenda, special right-of-way use permit 43 South Court Street. Ryan, if you'd be so kind as to give us a picture. 43 South Court Street is the Only from Ohio building. And we have had a request, it's cleared the code office, it's forwarded to us to grant a right-of-way use permit. The lower green awning would be removed, and in its place would be a 4-foot balcony similar to the balcony 2 doors down. In addition to that, what is happening up here is we have new owners to the building, and they are going to turn the upper floors of 43 and the building next to it, 45, with the purple awning, to two-bedroom apartments, multiple two-bedroom apartments. What they plan on doing is updating all the windows at 43, the only for Ohio building, and quite honestly, getting rid of that eyesore, that's a personal statement, but that eyesore next to it that just has a wall, a multicolored wall, green and white up above, and there'll be multiple windows in that. The windows and the balcony have been presented to the Historical Preservation Committee in the city, signed off on that, and it's going to look a whole lot better. In the packet, you saw, if you'll scroll down, an architectural rendering of what all that's going to look like. I have talked to the architect, Mr. Schultz, Richard Schultz, and he told me exactly what's going to happen, and they plan to get started on this as quickly as possible. And if at all possible, would like us to move this out of committee this evening so that we can get it through the 3-reading process by the end of the year, not the school year, but the end of the year. So that's an overview of what we're looking at there and what their request is. I will turn it over to the mayor for comments and questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Swank. Taking you for a ride in the Wayback Machine, remember when the what was the greenery back in the day, when the renovation started on that building and they realized that there was 11-foot long I-beams that stretched out over Court Street, hence the atrium up there already did back in the day. And there was a request to retain all of that and turn it all into one large deck. If council remembers, and maybe not, I don't even know if President Crowell, if you were on council at the time, but it was...
I was an avid newspaper reader, so I followed this. Thank you.
It was 2013 was the year.
when we had real news in the newspapers. Yeah, it was interesting how that rolled out, and one of the things that we landed on at that point in time was the whole concept of special right-of-way, to where that hadn't come up before in the past. It did then, and it became part of our code as to what is required if someone is requesting such an item like that. I did go around at that point in time, just to share a little bit of context with council. Literally went around with the measuring tape and measured every balcony in the uptown area, and in particular new ones, because I was told that there were no balconies that exceeded 2 feet out from the facade of a building. And that was not entirely accurate. It ranged everywhere from the People's Bank balconies, which do extend about 24 inches to 36 inches on a structure that's on Carpenter Street, to when China Fortune used to be uptown on West Union, when that was taken over and became something other than apartments, I believe. There was a balcony that was affixed to that as well, which, if my memory serves me correctly, was about 30 inches. So it was really kind of all over the radar as to how these balconies, as things have moved forward in time, but everyone requesting one after this became law was asking for a special right-of-way permit to be able to put said balconies on their building. This is the first time, I'm aware of this, Councilmember Swank, this is the first time I've seen this. Given that it's can you remind me how many feet this is going to be?
4 feet.
This is a 4 foot?
Yes, sir.
And they're going to retain that bay window on the facade of the building, which appears to stick out, again, I'm guessing, everybody, I don't know, 24 to 36 inches out. So it'll be occupying a fair amount of that balcony to retain that, if I'm not mistaken on this, and therefore ingress and egress would be through one of the two windows, or maybe both, I don't know.
Yes, sir, maybe both, because it'd be a two-bedroom unit on the left and a two-bedroom unit on the right.
Now, will there be, just because I haven't been brought up to speed 100% on this, do you know, for the tenants in there, will it be, again, aside from the bay window or whatever that structure is called coming off the front, will it be a divided balcony as well, or will it be an open balcony for both units to be able to access?
I did not ask Mr. Schultz that, and I could not tell that from the architectural drawings that came along with the permit. But I can ask that question. If it goes to the 3 reading process, we'll have an answer for it next
Please.
Monday. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to know that.
Okay.
Because that was something that we certainly explored back in the day with these special right-of-way permits. I think, and again, this is going way back for me, the balconies that were put in for the apartments above, again, what was the greenery, or Swindlefish, or everything else that had morphed from. I believe those patios or balconies, whatever, are divided to where they're separate for each unit, as opposed to one large balcony for anybody who's living up there. And I understand what you're saying, that those are 2 units up there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very good.
And the style will be very similar to what you see above the Our House, or the house thing. So architecturally, and again, this was presented to the Historical Preservation Commission, and I think they had 3 meetings just on the windows, so we're in good hands with that.
Thank you.
Members of the community. Before we go to the committee, other members of council who are in the community but up here today. Members of the committee, Member Thomas and Member Wood. Yes.
I think it makes sense, given I remember all the history of what the mayor was saying, and all that they went through to put. And if you go up and down Court Street since then, I think all the balconies have been added, look really nice, and have really cleaned it up a lot. I think this continues it. Yeah, especially when they get the above cross court opened up. It'll look really nice. That was an old boarding house with all shared bathroom and everything in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool inside.
If you really want to see what they've done, go around behind you can access the alley behind from Union Street and the huge dumpsters they have there. And they've taken out three layers of flooring, some great Mississippi loblolly pine, which is basically a gymnasium floor. A lot of good wood back there. Wood, anything?
Well, you said they went down, they filled out the papers, but did they do it the right way?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So,
We have 2 more meetings to hear that. And they paid the fee.
don't let me down, sir.
Yeah.
Don't let me down.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion from members of the committee to move this forward.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? President Crowell, that before we conclude this, both of those items, again, will be offered as an amendment to the agenda so we can get first reading on them later this evening. And that concludes planning and development.
Excellent. Thank you, Member Swank. We now move on to our regular session. I'd like to start by acknowledging that here in Athens County, we live and work on land initially settled and developed by earlier people, particularly the Shawnee and the Osage, and those identified through cultures, commonly known as the Adena, Hopewell, and Fort Ancient. This acknowledgement reminds us of the importance of honoring history, people, and the planet as we work to improve our city's legacy. Our first order of business is to establish quorum. 6 of 7 council members are present this evening, and we have quorum. Our next item of business is disposition of the minutes.
President Crowell, if
Yes,
I may.
please.
I would like to move that we amend the agenda to include what I believe would be ordinances 138, use of the right-of-way, or not, excuse me, Title 23, B3R3, and what I believe will be number, okay, well, 139, and I guess the next one will be 140, which will be the special right-of-way use permit for 43 South Court Street. I move that we add both to the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to amend tonight's agenda to add the 2 ordinances discussed under the Planning and Development Committee. Are there any comments or questions on this amendment? Member Clodfelter?
Just clarification, they would be added as being read for first reading, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Mayor, anything to add? Audience members? All those in favor of amending the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The agenda is amended, Member Swank.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving on to disposition of the minutes of the special session of City Council held November 10th, 2025. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The minutes are approved. We now have communications. I have a few before I turn to other council members. I'd like to announce to the public that next Monday, December 8th, we will have a special session in addition to our committee meetings to read the ordinances that are on tonight's agenda as we try to prepare for the end of the year. We are attempting to have our final meeting of the year on Monday, December 15th. I will also, you'll get more information from the mayor, but would like to congratulate Becca Lockman as our new City of Athens Poet Laureate. I'm prematurely congratulating her, but we hope to approve her later this meeting. And finally, I want to announce that the Athens Soil and Water Conservation District is holding a stormwater workshop. It's free, and it is at the Community Center on December 9th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And there's lots of great things you can learn about how to manage our stormwater more sustainably in the city of Athens. So I encourage you to join the stormwater workshop at the Community Center on the 9th from 6 to 7:30. Other communications from council members. Member Swank.
Just a reminder that the NOPEC-sponsored voluntary lawn tool going electric program is still open. And as we enter the winter season, people probably aren't turning in lawnmowers, but you can turn in leaf blowers and things of that nature. It's a very simple process. You go to the city's website, you download the form, you fill it out, you take your piece of equipment down to the city Public Works office down on West State Street. They log it in, give you a receipt, drop that off at City Hall, and believe it or not, in 4 short days, you will have a check. Now, you need to buy the equipment. Now, how do I know this? I actually did this. I had an old Toro rototiller that I battled with, like many of you do every spring, trying to get it started, and I gave up on the gas, ordered a new one, battery powered, took it down, and that's what we used to till the Bob Evans bed. The rototiller cost me $250. It was considered a large item, and I got a check in the mail for $200. For a whopping $50, got an old gas-powered thing which pollutes the environment out of service, and got a nice new battery-powered one to work. And it actually works better than the old one. The program's still open. Your executive assistant has told me there's still money in the fund. So think about that with your gas-powered equipment, chance to move to battery or electric-powered, and to get a good portion of it paid for.
Thank you, Member Swank. Other communications. Member Thomas.
Because it just popped in my head, reminding myself, tomorrow, December 2nd, from 5:30 to 7, is the public open house at the Armory to review the draft code for neighborhood overlays that the city planner has been working on. So that's just open for people to review and check in and ask questions.
Thank you. Yes, Member Wood.
One, just wanted to offer congratulations to Lieutenant Dan Riley, who had his retirement party today, part of the spectacular fire department we have here. Kudos to him. Thank you for your service. And also wanted to add kind of some other recognition for the Hot Box Chicken did their SNAP program, feeding folks in the community during the SNAP shortages, or however you want to term those. They had a free program where people could do meals. Similarly, Kaiser's Barbecue did a free Thanksgiving meal, which was amazing. And Tavolino does a regular sort of needs-based meal. And I think that's pretty incredible, folks putting, real money into taking care of folks in the community during these very cold holidays. So thank you to those businesses for doing that.
Thank you, Member Wood. Yes, Member Clodfelter.
In the spirit of mentioning things that are happening in town, also this Thursday, December 4th, ASONET is going to have a holiday open house, and it's free. It is from 5 to 8 p.m. at 94 Columbus Road. And there will be things available for purchase by some of the vendors there, and you can just see all the good stuff that's happening at AceNet for our local businesses.
Thank you, Member Cloudfelter. Any other announcements from city council members? Other elected, reports and communications from other elected officials. Law Director Eliason,
No.
Mayor Patterson.
I have a couple items tonight, President Crowell, to share. As you had indicated, so thank you for mentioning this, that Becca Lockman, whose resume is quite impressive, is the individual who was selected to become our fourth poet laureate, I believe, for the city of Athens. Tina Wilson, who headed up the Athens Municipal Arts Commission ad hoc committee to select, notified me, and it's wonderful. And so as soon as we can have Becca come, I would like to introduce her to council and let her tell a little bit more about her story, about herself and her story. So congratulations to her. The next item that I have, I'm sure everyone's going to jump up and down over this one, is that on Friday of this week, Stimson Avenue will go back to two-way again. We will be removing the signalized, the signals that are there right now, so it'll go back to two-way again. The pedestrian passageway, though, there's going to be continued work on that to put up the external guardrail. The decorative lighting will be going in later. You've seen the new lighting, the taller poles that are in there, so that lighting is in place, which is wonderful. But the Stimson Avenue, or the Richmond Avenue style decorative lamps, those will be going in next year. So the whole project will hopefully wrap by early spring of 2026. But to get this back open to two-way traffic is happening this Friday. We're going to do a little ribbon cutting down there to blast it out to the public. If you haven't noticed, they're calling for snow tonight. And now is a good time to remind people that when it snows, you've got a set amount of time to shovel your sidewalk. That doesn't mean you can shovel your sidewalk one blade width from end to end, because that is not only doing a disservice to those who have mobility issues, it's quite honestly, it's an insult to an individual who has mobility issues to not have that sidewalk completely cleared. It is the property owner's responsibility to clear the sidewalk. It is the business owners in the uptown area to also shovel their sidewalk within a certain time frame after the snow stops and so on and so forth. If you have to hire somebody to shovel your sidewalk, hire someone to shovel your sidewalk, but get it done. It's just that important. Granted, you have a sidewalk. So, again, a gentle reminder, a stern reminder. I will ask the government channel to put that in heavy rotation, the reminders that we have in place for educating people what is your responsibility when we have snow events. Another thing that I feel strongly about that I'm asking council to consider is either individually or collectively work on something to make sure that Congress does the right thing and not allow the government to shut down again with moving forward on that January 30th, 31st deadline, because that's the drop dead for the current CR. If no action is taken or we can't come to a consensus, whatever, at the end of the day, that means that we're going to experience the exact same thing that we experienced with the longest shutdown in the history of the United States. So I would encourage you to reach out to our congressional members, to both our senators, to sit there and tell them, get it done the right way the first time, as opposed to having this happen again. I am certainly going to be writing letters. I'm going to be working with the National League of Cities, as I always do, to make sure we're getting information out there. The last thing I want to share with council is what a year this has been for me with my leadership role with the National League of Cities. I just came back, as most of you know, from the city summit in Salt Lake City, Utah, in which I transitioned from being the president of the National League of Cities to immediate past president. I still have responsibilities as the immediate past president, but what an honor it has been to represent Athens, to represent Appalachia, in the 101-year history of the National League of Cities and the 99 presidents who have served. There have only been 2 now who represented any municipality within the Appalachian region of the United States. And the first one was Jim Hunt in 2006 from Clarksburg, West Virginia, and then myself from Athens, Ohio. It has really made Athens not only recognizable, but notable. And in particular, I sat on many, many panels to include during Climate Week in New York City, not just talking about Athens, but bragging on Athens and what we've been able to accomplish when it comes to doing our part to protect our physical environment, our natural resources that we have here. One of the things I learned at C40 when I was in Rio de Janeiro, not too long ago, was listening to other municipalities that have, globally, that are really doing a lot of work in terms of enhancing their tree shed. And one place in particular, I believe it's a community in Spain where they're basically creating forests in their city. Now, Spain, if you've ever been to Spain, that's going to be an interesting challenge to see how many of these trees that are likely natives are going to survive. But my point being, when I'm hearing about 1 million trees being planted in this municipality, I don't believe we're going to need 1 million trees in the city of Athens, but we certainly are going to be making a major push next year to be planting more trees and making more shaded spaces along the bike paths, along certain streets in the city of Athens where we know we need to do a better job of getting trees in place. But a lot of that came from just being there and engaging with other municipal leaders and seeing what they're doing and hearing what they're doing. Because everyone knows a good mayor is going to take these ideas, steal them from other people, bring them home legally, and call them your own. That I dreamt this up on my own. I did not dream this up on my own, but something that I think that we can certainly collectively do a better job of in terms of creating a greater density of carbon sequestration in the city of Athens by planting more trees. Councilmember Swank, or Councilmember Crowell, President Crowell.
Thank you, Mayor. That's an exciting initiative. I was able to attend briefly the Arbor Day celebration planting down by our new fire station. We did have 2 further down in the riparian area with the university and community members involved and the Shade Tree Commission, and I look forward to learning more about your work and the city administration and the Shade Tree Commission and all of the people in our community that support those initiatives. So congratulations, and I look forward to the continued progress. Okay, we are now moving on to ordinances for third reading. Ordinance 120-25 is an ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Athens, Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026, introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to amend 120-25.
So moved.
The nature of the amendment is there has been a change in the budget that was submitted at our last discussion of this. I believe everyone's got a copy or seen a copy. Essentially, what's happened is there has been an increase in transfer and refunds, line 600, and the auditor's office. The original amount that was on our report was, let's see, auditor, $350,000 for transfer and refunds. That amount now is $1,100,000. Consequently, the budget has changed significantly by about $750,000. So that is the amendment that I'm putting forward for this ordinance.
We have a motion and a second to amend 120-25. Comments or questions on this amendment? Member Swank.
I'm assuming, since we really haven't gotten a lot of information on this, that this deals with what's called a net operating loss.
That is correct.
So a net operating loss occurs when a company's deductions exceed its taxable income, allowing businesses to carry forward these losses to offset future profits and reduce future income taxes. $750,000 is a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
And with our current tax rate of 1.95%, and I'm assuming this did not happen in 1 year, but a series of years.
It's been carried forward, yes.
Yes. To come up with a $750,000 refund, the income on which that would be based is $38,400,000. That's a lot of money. And I guess my question is, multiple questions, but one is this a one-time shot? Obviously, we don't know who this business is, and we will not because of tax returns and all of that being confidential information. Is this a one-time thing, and is this something that I'd never heard of an NOL? And I was an independent contractor for many, many years. And I'm wondering if this is something that's going to be an unpredictable hit in the future. The other question I have, where are we going to get that $750,000? What adjustments, this is the general fund we're talking about.
That's correct.
What adjustments are we potentially going to have to make to make up that $750,000? I guess that's probably, Mr. Mayor, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it's a sizable amount of money. And I think that would probably be an administrative recommendation, particularly if it were to involve staffing levels. And another item on our agenda tonight is staffing levels for 2026. So those are some of the questions I have. I have to be honest, some of those are from Member Spellness, too, who obviously couldn't be here tonight because of illness. So I'd just kind of like some answers or at least some guidance as to those questions.
Any other comments or questions from council members on the amendment? Mayor, anything to add to this amendment?
Just to answer Councilmember Swank's question, I believe it was a question posed to me, and that is that, yes, we'll be working with the auditor to figure out where that money is going to come from, or is it all coming out of the general fund, which is significant.
Mayor Klotfelder.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at last week's meeting, the auditor put forward a way of recouping over $300,000 of that by kind of charging the departments for their employees who were getting health insurance on a calculated basis that seemed fair to each department. So that is part of it. But beyond that, I had asked very similar questions last week that you're asking tonight, Member Swank.
So that's a different issue, Member Clodfelter.
Right.
That has to do with the medical fund. This is a brand new $750,000.
This popped up last week.
Yeah, so this hasn't been discussed in front of this body and just has come up in the time between last week's meeting and tonight's meeting. So it's an additional expense that needs to be considered by this body.
I believe the mayor had a question.
No, well, it was to correct, as the president just did. I do want to give a little historical context, and I'll be brief. This was something that Auditor Hecht and at the time our tax administrator, Tina Timberman, worked really hard and gave a lot of testimony at the State House on this issue of NOL. And there was other things that our state legislature thought it was wise to do to local municipalities, and NOL was one of them. And we were in strong opposition to that going forward, but it ended up moving forward regardless after all the testimony that was given, knowing that we're not alone in this. It's other municipalities that are also finding themselves having someone basically cash in on NOL after the 5-year period of it being, them having opportunities to enact this. I think that, Councilmember Swank, you asked about whether this could be an ongoing issue. It could.
On that note, I'll just share that there was some question as to whether this was connected to the COVID remote work changes in refunds, and we do not believe that it is. As far as I know, it is not connected to the remote work changes in the tax.
This predates, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So this piece of legislation, it predates COVID.
Yeah, but this exact refund request. Yes, Member Swank?
I guess I'd come back to one of the things that the mayor mentioned, and I know, like you, I was out of town last week too, and this is just coming before us. But if we do have to consider the fact that we're going to have to come up with this money somewhere, and it'll probably have to come from somewhere where we already plan to spend it, whether it be on the things that are covered under the general fund, personnel, supplies, services, debt service, capital outlay, transfers, and refunds. Do you have in your mind, because obviously this will be conversations with you and Director Stone, maybe department heads, obviously the auditor, treasurer, in terms of a timeline, what we'll be looking at as to, because we're nearing the end of the year, and one of the things we need to pass, although we could pass a temporary budget, but generally what we need to pass in the next 3 weeks is this budget for the year. Is this something you foresee being able to come to this body with information before the end of the year? Will you need to do that into 2026?
No, our plan is to get that information to council this year,
Okay.
ASAP.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we have 90 days to pay. I believe that's what the law says, is that they present their bill and you have 90 days to make it good. Am I remember correctly?
I think that's correct, yeah.
Yes.
But the mayor will be making the changes to his recommendations to the general fund budget based on this expense long before the 90 days.
Correct.
So we have an amendment on the table. Are there any comments or additional comments or questions about the change in the budget for 2026? Would the members of the public like to speak to the amendment? All those in favor of accepting the amendment for ordinance 120-25 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion to amend has been approved, and ordinance 120-25 has been read for the first time.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for 120-25.
Second.
The reason for the suspension is that we really need to get our budget passed. I'd like to get it done.
Member Crown.
There is a motion on the floor to suspend the rules for ordinance 120-25. Comments and questions on this suspension? Member Swank.
With the amendment, this would take it back to first reading, and we have another meeting scheduled on the 8th and another meeting scheduled on the 15th, which would be second reading and third reading. And in view of the information that the mayor shared with us, I would be more comfortable getting some of that information before we vote on this at the December 15th meeting.
As would I.
Well, I'd just like to say in reply, I don't know what more information we could have that could change anything. The situation is as it is. It's not going to change in the next 2 weeks. Why not just get it over with?
Member Reisner, the thinking, I think, would be that the budget could change to incorporate this new expense in
But
the refund line.
that's what we're doing now.
But
I mean, where the money comes from, that's a separate issue than this amendment and this ordinance.
well, that's,
And we amend budgets all the time. I mean, that's, I think the auditor pointed out, this it's a living document. It's always changing. So But do whatever you like. I'm
Okay.
out of here in 30 days.
Less than that, too. We have a motion to suspend the rules on the table. Are there any other comments or questions on the suspension on the table? Member McCary.
Thank you. I think I'd just like to continue Member Swank's thought in terms of the timeline and get clarification on the implications for not suspending the rules tonight. We might get some additional information about how we'll handle this unexpected expense, but is there any other implication?
Member Reisner?
No,
Member Swank?
I'm finished.
No, that's why I mentioned that we have 2 more scheduled meetings and could wrap this up by the 15th and still have a budget in place to start 2026.
Mayor, any comment there? No. We don't have the auditor in attendance this evening, so I can't answer your question personally, Member McCary.
Sounds like there's not a consequence to us not moving forward with well, if the vote doesn't pass today, if we don't approve the budget today, that's not going to hinder us. I'm not hearing any significant hindrance.
Well, only the fact that it seems like we're having fewer and fewer people attend.
Thank you.
Member Thomas?
I just have a question. So I guess thinking about attendance, and did the auditor ask if we would suspend or say she would like it done? I guess we're on 3rd reading, so I guess she knew it'd go back to 1st reading, but did she request that or by any chance? If we should not have enough people next week or the week after, do we have to have a certain number to suspend?
No, the only communication I got from the auditor was this amendment and the fact that she wouldn't be here tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Additional comments or questions on the suspension on the table? Okay. All those in favor of suspending the rules for ordinance 120-25 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
I don't know how many that was.
So we'll do a roll call vote. Reisner,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Swank,
Nay.
McCary,
Nay.
Clodfelter,
Nay.
Thomas.
Aye.
It's maybe.
By God, we got a tie.
We do. And in a
Okay,
situation
Mr. President, what are you going to do?
It really doesn't matter what he does. We need 6 votes.
Yeah, remind me, Law
Well,
Director,
we actually, it's a majority of those present.
for
To
suspension
suspend
of
the
the
rules?
rules.
Yes.
That was 6 votes.
So did I.
Oh.
I believe
so
that's
it's a
what I
major-
was,
Well, actually, that's wrong. It was not of those present. It's of the total. So,
It's going to have 6.
yes. Sorry.
yes, so the rules have not been suspended. But ordinance 120-25 with its amendment has been read for the first time. Ordinance 122-25 is an ordinance authorizing 2026 non-union compensation, repealing all ordinances inconsistent therewith, and declaring an emergency, introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to adopt 122-25.
Second?
It's been read. It's been discussed. It's in front of you. Let's vote.
Thank you, Member Reisner. We have a motion and a second to approve 122-25. Any comments or questions on this ordinance? Mayor, anything to add? Audience members? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting 122-25 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries, and the ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 123-25 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into a contract with the Employee Benefit Service Center to serve as the city's third-party health insurance administrator, TPA, and declaring an emergency. Introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to adopt 123-25.
Second.
Well, like the first one, it's been read and discussed.
Thank you, Member Eisner. We have a motion and a second to approve 123-25. Any comments or questions from council? Anything to add, Mayor? Audience members? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries, and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 124-25 is an ordinance authorizing a group excess loss medical insurance contract and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Eisner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to adopt 124-25.
Seconded?
This is a fairly important piece of legislation here, considering our budget issues, so I hope we pass it tonight.
Thank you, Member Eisner. Any comments or questions from council on this ordinance? Anything to add, Mayor? Members of the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries, and the ordinance is approved. We now have ordinances for second reading. I will read the title and then check to see if there are any comments or questions. Ordinance 121-25 is an ordinance authorizing 2026 staffing levels, repealing all ordinances inconsistent therewith, and declaring an emergency, introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee. Yes, Member Swank.
I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if by chance, when the administration reviews the options for the $750,000 that we will need to refund in income taxes and determines that it affects positions, perhaps someone is at the end of their career, could perhaps retire, and we no longer have that position, or perhaps we actually have to eliminate a position as a worst-case scenario. How would that potentially affect this? In other words, if we get this to third reading and approve it, are we locked into those positions? Or do we, when we vote on this at third reading, need to make sure it's what the administration has determined is the best path forward, taking into account the $750,000 we need to come up with, or reappropriate, maybe, be a better way to put it?
So at this point in time, with the $750,000, it has to be transferred into the refund 600s. The staffing ordinance stands as is. You know, anytime we put forward, or I present to council, the staffing ordinance for the upcoming year, you know, every position that is on that staffing ordinance, you know, has to be funded going into 2026 or any year. We have the resources to be able to do that. I think to answer your question more fully, we are going to be watching, aside from the $750,000, which, yes, that's a lot of money. But aside from that, you know, looking forward in time, given that we had this conversation a year ago about an income tax increase for the city of Athens, because I can't stress this firmly enough, that, you know, you're having to project years into the future as to what your revenue is going to look like, especially when you're asking for an income tax increase. We have done that. It failed at the ballot in May of last year, or May of this year, whenever it was. As council will be taking up the two resolutions at the end of council meeting tonight, again, the ability to put a ballot initiative on for May of 2026 for an income tax increase. Again, not the 0.3, but a 0.2% income tax increase. That we've already been modeling that to see what that would look like looking forward in time into 2027, because we won't see that revenue, the reality of that revenue coming in until October of 2027. So anyway, the short answer to your question is we're not looking at any reduction in the current staffing ordinance. You mentioned this. It is something that I always think very long and hard about, and that is when there's retirements in the city, you know, do we need to immediately refill that position? In some cases, yes. It's a critical position that has to be you have to have someone in there, especially things like our department heads, where we have to have management who's running said department, whatever that department is, or one of our plants, wastewater or water treatment plant. But we will be looking very closely at any future 2026 retirements and how critical is that position to refill it right away or to hold that position. Now, bear in mind, that position is still fully funded for that calendar year, right? So whatever the FTEs are that are in the staffing ordinance, they are fully funded for the 26 pays, and we will continue to be doing that. But again, if you have a retirement halfway through the year, that revenue, it stays in that fund line for that individual, but it's not being paid out because the person is no longer with the city of Athens, if that makes sense. And that lends itself to our carryover into the following year, 2026, to the carryover for 26 to 27.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other comments or questions on this ordinance? Okay, moving on. Ordinance 129-25 is an ordinance repealing Ordinance 91-23, the Uptown Improvements Project, number 329. This is introduced by Councilmember Spielness, who's not here tonight. I don't know if anybody else in the Transportation Committee has anything to say, but at second reading, we can just move on. Ordinance 130-25 is an ordinance amending Ordinance 35-25, authorizing engineering and construction of the Athens Streetscape Beautification, project number 383, introduced by Councilmember Spielness. Ordinance 131-25 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to redesignate Hocking Athens Perry Community Action, HAPCAP, to administer the Athens Public Transit Bus System, introduced by Councilmember Spielness. Ordinance 133-25 is an ordinance amending Title VII Traffic Code, Sections 7.01.02, 7.01.13, 7.01.17, 7.03.07, 7.03.07.1, 7.03.25, 7.04.03, and 7.04.44, and repealing all ordinances inconsistent therewith, introduced by Councilmember Swank.
Could you read that again, please?
Only in my sleep. Ordinance 134-25 is an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title IX, General Regulations, Chapter 9.06, Intoxicating Liquors, Narcotics, Section 9.06.99, Penalties, introduced by Councilmember Swank. Ordinance 135-25 is an ordinance amending Title 13, General Offenses, Sections 13.05.01 and 13.05.03, and repealing all ordinances inconsistent therewith, introduced by Councilmember Swank. Ordinance 136-25 is an ordinance to repeal Athens City Code Title 15 taxes, introduced by Councilmember Reisner. Ordinance 137-25 is an ordinance to provide for an increase in the general city income tax of 0.20%, 0.20%, per annum beginning January 1, 2027, introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee. Okay, we now move on. We have two resolutions for second reading. I'm sorry, we have two additional, may I have the, yeah, thank you. Thank you. We do have the two ordinances that were discussed in the Planning and Development Committee this evening and then were added to the agenda through an amendment. Ordinance 139-25 is an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title 23, Zoning, Chapter 23.04, Permitted Uses, to allow temporary shelters as a conditionally permitted use in R3 and B3 zones, introduced by Member Swank.
Thank you, President Corral. Again, What we have before us today is a recommendation from the Planning and Development Committee. Essentially, what it says, and I'll read it again one time very quickly. Temporary housing shelters, housing structures of a temporary nature that are not affixed to the property and that do not contain kitchen or bathroom facilities. One sink and one toilet must be available for use within 200 feet for every 3 temporary housing shelter units. Approval by the Service Safety Director must first be obtained before approval of this use by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Temporary housing shelter use must be reapproved every year by the Service Safety Director. That applies to both the R3 situation and the B3 situation.
Thank you, Member Swank. Any comments or questions on this ordinance? Anything to add, Mayor? Members of the public? Okay. Ordinance 140-25 is an ordinance granting a special right-of-way use permit.
President.
I'm sorry? Is there a problem?
Perhaps a movement about amendments?
Amending 139-25.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to amend 139-25. Do you want to state your amendments, Member Thomas?
Yes. We had previous one that was in here, I guess it was in the committee notes. So it would be inserting after the 200 for every 3 temporary housing shelter units. It would add to say said shelter units, said shelters must be under the supervision and care of a licensed local health and welfare agency or churches and other incorporated faith-based organizations and state-licensed public welfare organizations. Additionally, it would add, approved agency must have an MOU agreement in place with Service Safety Director defining operational terms governing the location. A maximum of 6 temporary housing shelters allowable per applicant per location. A maximum of 5 locations permitted at one time within city limits, and no fee shall be collected in exchange for use of said temporary housing shelters. And the same would go under C2 for B3 zones.
Thank you, Member Thomas. We have an amendment on the table to amend 139-25. Comments and questions from council on this amendment? Member Swank.
While I think these are all fine and good, I still have a concern about rolling this out citywide on a R3, B3 basis in light of not knowing how the gathering place situation will go or the capacity availability at the Sunset Motel.
Member Clodfelter?
2 thoughts about this. Number one, to my knowledge, and according to everyone I've asked, we have no more offers from anyone else in town to host any kind of temporary shelters. So we're talking about a theoretical future in which suddenly there was a huge increase of people wanting to do this, but right now nobody's offering to do this. Also, I like the inclusion that Member Thomas added, that approved agency, and again, that would be a licensed local health or welfare agency or a church or other incorporated faith-based organization. That approved agency must have a memorandum of understanding agreement in place with the safety service director defining operational terms governing the location. I think that is a really smart safeguard, a really strong one, and it greatly strengthens this ordinance, this proposed ordinance.
Thank you, Member Clodfelter. Member McCary?
Thank you. This is more of a procedural question, but in the event that council decides to at some point table this before it would come to a vote, could the amended version that we've just discussed in light of Member Thomas's recommendations be represented in the new term from the Planning Commission, or is it considered null at that point? Can they introduce it again in the new year is my question for council's consideration.
Member McCary, your first question was what if this was tabled?
Yes.
I believe if this was tabled, it wipes the slate clean and everything has to start again in the next year. Is that correct, Law
Would have to
Director?
come forward again. We've had some discussion on this because a new council coming in, there will be two new members who. Three new members, excuse me, who didn't have the advantage of the public hearings. Now, certainly they could watch those public hearings and listen to all the comments, but it would have to come up, again from the recommendation of the Planning Commission in the new year.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Again, we're considering the amendment right now. Member Thomas?
I understand what Member Swank is saying. I would just like to urge that we accept the amendments and that we continue this through so that if people want to come and comment on the full ordinance with these amendments, they have the ability to have the next two readings to see if this makes people feel better or if this addresses some of the concerns that we heard voiced and can have a full discussion with a normal vote at the end.
Thank you, Member Thomas. Other comments or questions on the amendments on the table? Mayor, anything to add to the amendments?
I just need some clarity. I mean, there's federal proposed legislation out there that has been sitting for almost 100 years, tabled. And if someone in Congress sat there and said, you know what, I want to resurrect this thing and we're going to continue down this path, it can actually be done. That particular piece that I'm thinking of, I would rather it not, but whatever. And so, Law Director, I would like to have more clarity. If it's tabled this calendar year, regardless of a transition in council, which will also be a new president of council, then a council in 2026, albeit reconstituted with 3 new members, they could sit there and say, no, we want to bring this off the table at this point in time and continue this piece of legislation down its path.
Well, this couldn't be brought off the table. It can't be brought off the table in the new year. A completely new piece of legislation could, but that takes it back to the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Law Director and Mayor, I appreciate your comments, but I don't believe they're about the amendment on the table. So this has not been tabled. This has not been tabled yet. If we get to that point, we can investigate what the tabling procedures will be. But back to the amendments on the table proposed by Member Thomas. Audience members, anything to add to the amendments on the table?
Rob Delich, 124 Morris Avenue here in the city, and I agree with Member Thomas. I think we should just move this forward, have some discussion the next couple weeks, and if it doesn't pass the final vote, then that should end it rather than trying to kill it before right now by not allowing an amendment. So I'd encourage members of council to approve the amendment so we can at least move forward and discuss this and bring it to conclusion, not leave it hanging if we were to not amend it now. So. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Delich. Mr. Delich. You want to be a member? Any other comments or questions on the amendment on the table? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Well, 230911 states any amendment to such proposed classification, reclassification, or change which differs or departs from the recommendations submitted by the Commission, meaning the Planning Commission, must be approved by not less than 3/4 of the full members of City Council. And the full membership of City Council is 7, and so 3/4 of the full membership would be 6. And we don't, I believe, have 6, is that right, or do we?
We have 5 votes to amend.
Okay, so that would not pass.
Thank you, Law Director.
So it's now read for the first time.
It is read for the first time, 139-25, as it exists, as presented by Member Swank in committee and at the beginning of this question. Moving on, Ordinance 140-25 is an ordinance granting a special right-of-way use permit at 43 South Court Street to add a balcony to an existing building, introduced by Councilmember Swank.
Thank you, President Crowell. Basically, you stated what this one's about. We had the picture up on the wall, and that would be to add a balcony. This has cleared the code office and has been presented to City Council. And it's, I guess, read for the first time.
Thank you, Member Swank. Any comments or questions on this ordinance? Mayor, anything to add to this? Members of the public? Thank you. We will now move on to resolutions for second reading. Resolution 05-25 is a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. Introduced by Councilmember Reisner. Resolution 06-25 is a resolution to place the issue of increasing the city income tax by 0.20%, 0.20% per annum, beginning January 1, 2027, on the ballot at the next primary election on May 5th, 2026, and directing the Board of Elections of Athens County to conduct the election. Introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee. Okay, we now move on to announcements and other business. I'd like to start by announcing that the mayor has reappointed Mr. Delich as chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals, and this council will vote on approving his, or acknowledging his appointment. Any comments or questions on the appointment of Mr. Delich to continue his role as the chair of Board of Zoning Appeals?
I move that we confirm the mayor's appointment.
Second.
Thank you. Was there anything to add, Gladfeld, or is that what you're doing?
I just think we're lucky to have him as the
Okay.
chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm glad he's still willing to serve in that capacity.
Agreed. Any comments, Mayor? Members of the public? Mr. Delich, you willing to continue to do this? Okay, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Congratulations and thank you for your service. We also have a similar appointment of, or the mayor, confirming the mayor's appointment of Becca Lockman as City of Athens Poet Laureate. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the mayor's appointment of Becca Lockman as Athens City Poet Laureate. Any comments or questions on this appointment? Mayor, nothing to add. Members of the public? All those in favor of accepting the mayor's appointment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Congratulations, Ms. Lockman. You are our City of Athens poet. Poet Laureate.
Yeah, that's very cool.
May I have a motion to accept the October 2025 financial reports?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions on this? Members of the public? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The October 2025 financial reports are accepted. May I have a motion to accept the September credit card transactions?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the credit card transactions. Any comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The September credit card transactions are accepted. We now have an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services that were not covered on tonight's agenda. If anybody would like to come forward to the podium, they may have 3 minutes. Mayor, would you like to say, would you like to come forward to the podium?
I will not come to the podium, but I do have an announcement under other business, so I apologize for
that's
not
fine.
jumping in more quickly. And I know this doesn't get heard enough, so I'm going to take this public forum to be able to state to the president of City Council, Sam Crowell, you've been an outstanding president, as have our previous presidents, at least in my political time in office as a council member and as the mayor of Athens. So I know that at the end of the year, this time will come and everyone will give you accolades and thank you, but I want to jump out early to where I have the time to sit there and say, working with you has been brilliant, quite honestly. You've been steadfast in what you believe and how you keep decorum in this sacred place that is council chambers, and the way you've managed meetings. You've done it with poise, grace, and so just have to say that.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. Thank you. Moving on, any other comments or questions? I would take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Seconded.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. We are adjourned at 8:31 PM.